It's the perfect crime. In 2017, China seized control of this $1.5 billion brand new port from the nation of Sri Lanka. They didn't use a single soldier, tank, or missile. They used a weapon far more powerful in the 21st century: a contract. This is the face of China's debt-trap diplomacy, a silent invasion that is building a new global empire. It's known as the Belt and Road Initiative, a trillion-dollar plan to reshape the world. But behind the win-win propaganda lies a predatory playbook designed to ensnare nations. How does this trap actually work? How is China using mountains of debt to seize strategic assets across the globe? And which nation could be next to fall? Chapter 1. The Bait. The weapon is called the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI. Officially launched in 2013, it's pitched as a benevolent plan to build infrastructure for the developing world, the new Silk Road, reviving ancient trade routes with modern marvels. The sales pitch is undeniably genius, especially to nations desperate for development. For decades, if a poor country needed $1 billion for a port or a highway, their main option was the West, the World Bank, the IMF, or Western governments. This meant loans at low interest rates, but it also came with a mountain of rules: environmental impact studies, anti-corruption safeguards, demands for democratic reforms, open and transparent bidding processes. For many leaders in the developing world, this felt slow, intrusive, and sometimes downright painful. Then, China arrives like a savior. State-owned banks like the China Exim Bank offer fast money. Billions of dollars, often approved in months, not years. And the magic words: no strings attached. China explicitly promises non-interference in internal affairs. They don't care about your human rights record, your environmental standards, or the level of corruption in your government. But this promise is a lie. The strings are just hidden, woven into the fine print of the contracts. The loans often carry high commercial interest rates, sometimes variable, making future payments unpredictable. Crucially, the contracts are almost always secret, shielded from public scrutiny, parliaments, and even other potential creditors. And there's one fatal, non-negotiable condition: the project must be built by a designated Chinese state-owned enterprise, often using imported Chinese labor and materials. Think about that. The billion-dollar loan from the Chinese State Bank flows immediately back to a Chinese state construction company. The money barely touches the local economy. The borrowing nation is saddled with 100% of the debt, while Chinese firms reap 100% of the construction revenue. This isn't development aid. It's the bait for something much larger. Chapter 2. The Playbook. So what is China really after with this trillion-dollar gamble? This isn't charity. It's a meticulously crafted grand strategy designed to address China's own pressing vulnerabilities and expand its global dominance.
First, resource security. China is the world's factory, consuming half the planet's concrete, steel, and copper, but its domestic resources are dwindling. It's the largest importer of oil, gas, and critical minerals. The BRI secures direct access to these lifelines, locking down Africa's cobalt for batteries, Central Asia's gas, and the Middle East's oil for the next century, often through deals tied to infrastructure projects.
Second, solving the Malacca Dilemma. This is perhaps the most critical driver. Look at the map. This narrow channel between Malaysia and Indonesia is China's economic jugular. Over 80% of its imported oil, vital for its economy and military, must pass through this single choke point. It's heavily patrolled by the US Navy and its allies. In any potential conflict, a US blockade here could starve China's industrial heartland within weeks. The BRI is a colossal effort to build strategic bypasses, ports like Gwadar in Pakistan, connected by land corridors, railways through Myanmar, routes that break free from America's naval stranglehold. Third, exporting overcapacity. By the early 2010s, China's internal building boom had peaked, leaving massive state-owned construction and industrial firms idle. The BRI became a global outlet, keeping these giants busy and profitable by building projects abroad, using Chinese steel, Chinese cement, and Chinese workers. Fourth, political domination. This is the real trap, using debt as leverage to gain political compliance on the world stage. The playbook often unfolds in 5 calculated steps. 1. Target. Identify a country with a strategic location or resources, often coupled with weak governance or a leader desperate for a legacy project. 2. The loan. Offer billions in fast, opaque financing for ambitious projects, even those deemed economically unviable by institutions like the World Bank, which refused to fund them because they were obviously a bad idea. 3. The build. The loan money flows directly to Chinese contractors. The local economy sees minimal benefit, but is saddled with the debt. Infrastructure quality can sometimes be questionable, built quickly rather than built to last. 4. The default. The project, often oversized or poorly planned, inevitably becomes a ghost town. It fails to generate sufficient revenue. Saddled with high interest, the nation spirals towards default. 5. The seizure. The trap snaps shut. China, the dominant creditor, rejects pleas for debt relief or restructuring under international norms. Instead, it offers a solution: debt for equity. They will forgive a portion of the debt in exchange for controlling ownership or long-term operational rights over the strategic asset: the port, the railway, the mine. Chapter 3. The prize. Case files. This isn't just theory. This playbook has been executed across the globe. Let's open the case files. Case file 1. Sri Lanka. Hambantota port, the poster child. Rejected by Western lenders, funded by China at high interest, a commercial failure. By 2016, Sri Lanka was buried in Chinese debt. In 2017, the government had no choice. They surrendered the port to a Chinese state-owned company on a 99-year lease, a duration chillingly reminiscent of colonial-era concessions. And the consequence? It's not just the commercial port. In 2022, a Chinese military spy ship docked there, demonstrating China's newfound strategic foothold in the Indian Ocean right under India's nose. All achieved without firing a single shot. Case File 2. Pakistan. The Gwadar Port, flagship of the $62 billion China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, now operated by China on a 40-year lease. What is Gwadar? It's the solution to the Malacca Dilemma, a deep-water port on the Arabian Sea, the terminus of a land route giving China direct access to Middle Eastern oil, bypassing the U.S. Navy. Pakistan, meanwhile, is trapped in a perpetual debt crisis, constantly seeking IMF bailouts, largely just to service its Chinese loans. Case File 3. Djibouti. A tiny nation guarding the critical Bab el-Mandeb Strait, entrance to the Red Sea and Suez Canal. China funded ports and railways. Djibouti's debt to China soared past 70% of its GDP. The price? In 2017, China established its first overseas military base, just miles from Camp Lemonnier, the primary U.S. base in Africa. Coincidence? Unlikely. Case File 4. Laos. A poor landlocked nation dreaming of becoming land-linked. China built a $6 billion high-speed railway.
Landlocked nation.
The cost is nearly half of Laos's entire GDP. The country is now deeply indebted, facing potential default. its economic future mortgaged to Beijing. The pattern is undeniable. Chinese money flows in, debt spirals out of control, and China gains strategic access or military power. Chapter 4. The Real Empire. Influence over ownership. But what if seizing a port isn't even the real goal most of the time? What if the trap is even smarter, more insidious? Critics who focus only on asset seizures like Hambantota might be missing the larger picture. The true weapon often isn't the final default, it's the crushing weight of the debt itself. When a nation like Laos or Cambodia owes 40% or more of its GDP to Beijing, what leverage does that create? Consider the United Nations. When resolutions are proposed condemning China's crackdown in Hong Kong, its treatment of the Uyghurs, or its aggression in the South China Sea, how do these heavily indebted nations vote? Often they mysteriously abstain or vote alongside China. Is it genuine agreement or the silent pressure of the creditor? When China wants preferential access to a nation's valuable minerals, fisheries, or timber resources, are the contracts negotiated fairly, or are they expedited by leaders beholden to Beijing for financial lifelines? This is the real empire China is building. It's an empire of influence, secured through economic dependence. The price for that shiny new highway isn't just interest payments, it's your political silence. The price for the dam is your UN vote. The very nature of the contracts facilitates this. Unlike transparent World Bank loans, the majority of BRI contracts are secret. Citizens, journalists, even parliaments are often barred from seeing the terms. This secrecy breeds corruption. Leaders can sign deals detrimental to their own country, perhaps sweetened by personal kickbacks, knowing the details will remain hidden.
Many contracts also contain controversial clauses, like confidentiality requirements that last for years after the loan is repaid, or no Paris Club stipulations, explicitly forbidding the borrowing nation from seeking collective debt relief from traditional Western creditors. They are locked into Beijing's orbit, unable to seek help elsewhere.
And here's the final bitter irony for the West. When these debt burdens become unsustainable, where do these nations turn? They run to the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, for emergency bailouts. But who funds the IMF? Primarily US taxpayers and European allies. So Western taxpayers are effectively providing the funds for countries like Pakistan or Sri Lanka to pay back their high-interest loans to state-owned banks in China. America and its allies are indirectly paying to sustain the very system that is undermining their own global influence. The Belt and Road Initiative is arguably the most significant geopolitical masterstroke of the early 21st century. It brilliantly exploited a vacuum left by the West and offered a seductive alternative to the developing world. Slow money from the West, tied up in bureaucracy and demanding rules, or fast money from China, no questions asked, but coming with invisible chains. For over 150 nations, the lure of fast cash for nation building was too great to resist. Now, as the debts mount and the strategic consequences become clear, they are discovering the true cost of China's apparent generosity. They were never seen as partners. They were prospective clients, pieces on a global chessboard. This is the blueprint for a new form of colonialism, one built not on gunpowder and flags, but on concrete, contracts, and debt. And as this silent empire continues its relentless expansion, the critical question remains, is the world simply getting new roads, or is it getting a new master?
What do you think? Is this a genuine effort for global development, tragically resulting in debt? Or is debt trap diplomacy the most brilliant and dangerous geopolitical strategy of our time? Let us know your perspective in the comments.